Hi, this is Dan here. I hope you're doing well. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you a little bit of right hand technique. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Someone was talking to me about watching people on YouTube videos and in concerts and lots of different things going on with the right hand. So I would say that the bulk of bass playing is probably fingerstyle with rest strokes. So, you've got your index, middle finger, and you alternate them. Using rest strokes. A rest stroke is where you pluck. So, for example, D string, just plucking. You come to rest on the A string. So don't underestimate that. Get used to index, middle, over and over and over again, using rest strokes and keeping the tone clean and consistent. Nothing speeding up, slowing down, no volume changes unless you want that. It's probably the most commonly used bass technique. And then we've got raking, which is an extension of that. That's raking. I got my index finger, and it usually occurs from a high to a low string, high pitched to a low pitched string. I'm going from the D string to the E just with one finger. Requires quite a lot of timing with your left hand. I'm going G on the 5th fret of the D string, then E on the 7th fret of the A string, and then A on the 5th fret of the E string. All with that one finger. You can try it with the middle as well. There's no way I can pluck alternately that quickly. That's where raking comes in. It's all to do with timing. I'm talking mostly about this hand, but of course, the two hands coordinated and connected make good bass lines. That's your bread and butter technique. You can practice this using anything, G major scale. Really concentrating on keeping the notes smooth, musical, no buzzers. No speeding up, slowing down. You can, of course, use a metronome as well. That sounds good. Build speed incrementally, very gradually. Just do a little bit of this every day and you'll really get it together. You can dramatically change the tone just by placing your hand and plucking in different regions. So if I go back here, you get a tighter, more percussive sound. Move over the neck here. I don't want to play too funky here because it's better for long notes, I feel anyway. In the middle is pretty good for rock. Now watch this. Instead of going like this, plucking quite gently there. Here I'm coming from a slightly greater height and I'm really sort of almost slapping into the body to get the strings to slap against the frets. So you get a more metallic sound. Obviously, that's more suited to rock. I say obviously, you use this however you want, but for me, I'm hearing that in a rock kind of way, maybe funk here. Or ballady here, but this is what I'm thinking. You can use these techniques any way you like. Most bass players pluck with the index and middle, but there are plenty who use the third finger. Players like Hadrian Farrow, Matt Garrison, Steve Harris, these are very famous for using three fingers. John Young from Dream Theater. You got that kind of Iron Maiden gallop. Here, I'm just using my third finger. So I'm going third, second, first. We'll label those 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. I think that's easier than just using your index and middle. Another thing you can do is use three fingers, but not in groupings of three. Listen to this. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 every time. But I'm going to label the fingers 3, 2, 1 here. So 1 for index, 2 for middle, 3 for the ring finger. So I'm going 3, 2, 1, 3, and then 2, 1, 3, 2, and then 1, 3, 2, 1. And then you just start again. Putting an accent on each finger when I start again. Once you get it together, and it's hard not to feel that in threes, you just got to slow it right down. That's how I got this together, really slow. That's about as fast as my index and middle go. that would be hard to keep going. If I was playing lots of music that went like that, I might investigate this 3-finger technique, get that up to speed. It's going to be more efficient. Sticking with rest strokes, we've got palm muting. So we've got the fleshy part of your hand here, and it's sort of like karate chop motion. You put it by the bridge, and you bring your hand over like this, and we're using thumb. So again, it's the fleshy thumb tip there. Good for hip hop, muted styles, you know, like reggae. But also, you know, to simulate the sound of an upright bass. Don't mute too much there, otherwise you'll choke the note completely. You'll find the point that's good for you and your bass. And usually it's with the thumb. You can also use, you know, the index finger. But it gives you quite a distinctive tone. So far we've played with these rest strokes where you rest against a string. But you've also got free strokes where instead of, say, plucking the D and ending up resting on the A string like this, you would pluck away from the body of the bass. And that's useful for a number of different applications, but the most common probably being chords on bass, which of course aren't very commonly played, but it's good to practice these. It's good to come up with musical ideas, and it sounds good. So I'm just playing an A minor 7 here, A on the 12th fret of the A string. Then I've got the first finger on a C on the 10th fret of the D, and third finger on the G on the 12th fret. And this is where I'm using my thumb, index, and middle. See how when I'm plucking, I'm coming away from the body, because you can't really do rest strokes in this position. I'm anchoring my pinky finger here against the body of the bass. You can try that as well. You can also get little cool effects like I'm going thumb, first finger, thumb, index, middle, sorry. Here I've got a G major 7 chord. I'll show you that one as well. I've got G on the 10th fret of the A string, the second finger. Then B on the 9th fret of the D. I'm using my little finger on the 11th fret of the G string here. If I come off the notes, release pressure, then the notes stop. And if you go thumb, index, middle, almost like you're tapping on the table. Dip-a-dip. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do that with a traditional rest stroke kind of technique. You can practice that by just getting, say, a G major scale at the 10th fret. If you play notes within that scale on the same time, you'll be playing chords. So that was the 1st, 3rd, and the 7th is a G major 7th. And I'm just running down the notes of a scale. I'm just going up the harmonized scale. I've got different videos that go through this, but that's a good way of bringing a scale to life, improvising, and using this technique. Using a plectrum is a good idea because plenty of rock songs and funk songs use one. So I'm using thumb, first finger, kind of a bit like this. Not too much of the plectrum showing out. You get that. Soft fingers, and plectrums are made of all kinds of different materials. This is a Dunlop 0.73mm. I don't know what it's made of actually. They're all different types of materials. Very focused, very direct sound with this. And some players prefer playing with a pick and can play faster with one. There I was just going down, up. There's equivalent of going index, middle, and alternate plucking would be just going down, up, and that's alternate picking. As with any technique, there I was just doing downstrokes. Aim to be consistent, not speeding up or slowing down, and not wild inconsistencies with volume. Try to always do that, and also keep in time. Use a metronome or a drum beat. You can alter the position of this as well. But you get a tone that you really can't replicate with fingers. Bernard Edwards from Chic pioneered chucking, which is yet another right hand technique. It looks like he's playing with a plectrum, but there's no plectrum there. With your fingers like this, you can get a bit of palm muting as well, which you can with a plectrum as well. You may feel that that feels a little bit more natural than getting a piece of plastic, a plectrum. So you can try that as well. I've got a video that goes into that in a little bit more depth. Here I'm just playing octaves on D, 5th fret A string, 7th fret G string. Going back this fast. See how I'm doing down strokes on 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And doubling the speed, going down, up, gives you 16th notes. I know I'm talking about this hand, but this hand's doing a lot here. It's just lifting up off the notes to make them short. This minor pentatonic scale sounds great with this. And I'll stick with that key, or that scale, for the last one, which you know is slap. We've got the thumb portion of it. Now this is very much for me anyway. The thumb bit is where the fretboard ends, really trying to bounce off. And when I come down, my index finger is already under the string, you just pull away. Actually, there is one more I haven't spoken about that you hear Geddy Lee do a lot, and Les Claypool. It's playing power chords with a strum, whether it's the back of the fingernails, or the fingernails, or more of a chucking Bernard Edwards approach. There's no reason why you can't mix and match these techniques. I'm sure there are many, many more right-hand techniques that I haven't thought of, but those are the main ones, starting off, of course, with fingerstyle. That's what I recommend you would do, is just get the basics down. When you're going to be playing bass, probably in bands, you're going to be required to do the basics, and that's probably fingerstyle. But it doesn't hurt to know these other techniques that wildly change the way you play, wildly change the way you sound. And you can do that just with one bass. You can change a lot of how you sound by using these different right-hand techniques. As with any technique, start really slow, bring in a metronome as soon as you feel comfortable with both hands doing whatever technique it is. And just consistency is key in terms of speed, but what I mean is also in terms of doing a little bit every day. You know, this one, up until, I don't know, 2-3 months ago, I just couldn't do that. And to be honest, I haven't really found a way to incorporate that into the way I play, but I was intrigued. Can I get to this sort of speed with a bit of slow, consistent practice, all the stuff I preach every week? And it turns out you can. So that was just an experiment. Can I learn something new after nearly 30 years of playing the bass? The answer is yes. It doesn't matter how old you are or what level you are at. If you approach this the correct way, you can always improve. Thanks very much for watching. If you've got any questions, let me know. See you next time.